Welcome back. We're discussing the future of Canada Post and asking a very important question. Should it be privatized? And joining me for that discussion is Shawn Taylor, who's a senior features editor for the C2C Journal. So Peter, just before commercial break, you kind of gave us a little bit of a history of the Canada Post Corporation and its predecessor, the Royal Mail, and how it's kind of morphed over the decades. Most who are living now understand that mail is delivered to your door or your post office box, depending on how things have shifted in the past few years. I recall that sometime in the mid 2010s, maybe it was 2014, Canada Post changed some of their urban and rural mail delivery system. If you were kind of clustered together in a urban center, then you might get more PO boxes open to you. And that was a change from the door-to-door delivery. Was that a good move?
Well, Canada Post, if they'd had their way, they would have moved everybody to community mailboxes. I think what you're talking, these are the
Yes.
grouped mailboxes on beside the sidewalk, and on every couple of blocks there is one. Canada Post has recognized for quite a while that door-to-door delivery is extremely expensive, but you use all that unionized labor to do it, and they've been trying to get out of it. The federal government, through the Canada Postal Charter, has set limits on who can have their. No one currently can have their door-to-door mail delivery removed. New buildings and new homes, etc., get the community mailboxes. They had started to shift people, and that's been limited. So the Canada Post, we're talking in the previous segment about Canada Post business is in peril. The volume of letters and things is going down significantly. They're not really competitive in the parcel delivery business. So they've been looking for ways to cut their expenses. They've also tried to close rural post offices, which are another expensive operation. The federal government has stepped in and said they can't do that either. So Canada Post, to their credit, they recognize that they're in a dying industry, and they've been trying to find ways to save money. Federal government hasn't done them any favors by telling them, no, you got to keep doing this expensive thing, and you've also got to keep doing this other expensive thing. So they're kind of trapped right now, and we're starting to see the results of that, which is they've lost $3 billion over the last 6 years. And now just in January, they had to ask Ottawa for a $1 billion loan because they were going to run out of cash this year.
My
So
goodness.
the prospect of bankruptcy was staring him in the face, and so Ottawa has lent them $1 billion. But we're still no farther along for a real solution. This just prevents the lights from going out sometime in 2025.
And I take your point. Well, the corporation is governed by a board of directors, and they're trying to move things and pivot to where the future is. If they're running a corporation, they're mandated to exist by the government, but the government's also putting laws to parameters under how they can operate.
Restrictions.
Restrictions. So it must be a challenge. So then, of course, it leads to the question: should really Canada Post or government or mail delivery in general be removed from the hands of the government?
Well, that's the thing. Looking at Canada Post not as someone who waits with bated breath for the mail to come every day because it gets less and less important for what's in the mail, but as someone who's a taxpayer who says, am I going to be shelling out my taxes to keep this thing alive that I don't even find important anymore? I get all my bills come online, and I can send Christmas cards, and I can use someone else for parcels. So if you look at Canada Post from the point of view of a taxpayer saying, how can I ensure that this isn't going to cost me $1 billion every year? The only real solution is to sell it and make it someone else's problem, right? So get rid of it and have someone buy it and say they're going to be the mail delivery corporation. They'll be Canada Post. And so then it's not going to affect taxpayers. So if that's the perspective you take, then privatization is the only solution.
And is it really the advent of email and the internet that has really kind of suffocated the postal mail delivery?
It's a combination of things. Online billing and texting, and people communicate in a different way. People used to send love letters. When's the last time you got a love letter? So the mail is irrelevant to most people's lives. That, and a system that you can't count on. Look at the strike in November, the one time of the year you really do
Mhm.
want to have a post office working, and they go off, they don't work. So
Yes, and I
they've
couldn't.
contributed to their own demise in some ways by being unreliable as well as expensive and slower than all the alternatives.